Assalamualaikum, my name is Shafiq Umar Biroshidi. I will explain about introduction of transplant and objective of this experiment. Okay, firstly, what is a species transplant? Species transplant are organisms that are internationally or accidentally relocated from their original distribution, which can disrupt the community or ecosystem. Transplant experiment is one way to know the distribution of organism. There are two types of transplant experiment. First one is accidental transplant species. Second one is purposeful transplant species. Next, transplant experiment concept. Transplant experiment concept is about moving individual of a species to an occupied area and determine if they can survive and reproduce successfully. There are two outcomes of transplant experiment. First one is successful, the second one is unsuccessful. For successful, it is limited distribution is due to the area instability. Time has been too short to reach area not recognized by organism as suitable. For unsuccessful is limited by behavior, biotic or abiotic factor. What is 10's rule? 10's rules generally 1 out of 10 introduced species get established and 1 out of 10 established species become a pest. Eventually, not all introduced species thrive in their new home or survive. Next is the invasion process. The first one is uptake from a native range, transfer via vector, and release in new region and establishment occur, and the population lastly population increase and range expansion. Objective of this experiment is to study the red swamp crawfish and look at the genetic characteristic to understand their differences and where they come from, to learn how the crawfish species invaded the different part of the world and multiply introduction events, to learn how to control the likely source of invention.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The red swamp crayfish or the Procambris clarki is a native to the southern United States and northeastern Mexico, but now we can found in the inland that accepted Australia and Antarctica. The freshwater species is become the invasive species and cause severe ecological and economic impact, such as they are preying upon the native plant and animal, transmitting disease to the aquatic species, damage dives and canal in rice field due to its boring activities. And these species are become the widespread invader because due to economic values at the seafood. Yes, they are generate tens of billions of US dollar due to the vegetable in United States and Sweden per year around the world. And due to the lack of awareness of its impact, these species are intentionally introduced into the wild and many locations of the worldwide. Alright, next I will talk about the description of this species, which is the red swamp crayfish. Okay, these species have a dark red color, which rise red spot covering to their whole body and their claws, and blade with shaped stripe on top of the abdomen, and they may vary length between the 2 to the 5 inches, and occasionally this genetic mutation may turn their body and their claws into the blue color. However, all other features including their red spot remain the same, and this species also can be found in the all freshwater in the worldwide. Alright, now I will talk about cause of the introduction of the species. Okay, the red swamp crayfish in the early introduced are very important to the decomposed form for the consumption. Furthermore, this species also been introduced as food fishes and for the edible species like the bullfrog. Next, in Africa, this species also has been introduced as a biological agent to control the snake populations. And next, especially in Europe, the red swamp crayfish also has been introduced to replace the indigenous species like Austroprotambius palapis, the river bullet, that almost been extinct. Alright, lastly I will talk about the invasion rate and history of this species. Alright, the red swamp crayfish are being cultured extensively throughout the USA and was introduced by the human into the different part of the northern region such as the Arizona, California and the Georgia. While in the Europe, this species have been introduced into the Iberian Peninsula that illegally imported from the Louisiana for the commercial purpose, and this commercial was the success to illegal construction throughout the Portugal, Spain, France and Italy. Where in Asia, this crayfish species is widely established in China and Japan. It was initially introduced in Japan in 1927 that as food for the bullfrog, agriculture and the pet check and now it can be found in the whole country, including the Okinawa Island. And lastly, the red swamp crayfish is also established in Africa, with record from Egypt, Kenya, South Africa, Sudan, Uganda, Zambia, dan Zimbabwe.
We are going in detail about the causes of introduction. The main and very first cause is the aquaculture activities. Aquaculture activities is the activity where we collect and grow the marine life. For example, fishes and algae. In this case, it is red swamp crayfish, and which leads into our point number 2, which is the economic value as seafood. This animal was really popular and largely distributed among European countries and Western countries, which benefits them tons of billions of US dollars per year around world, which leads them into ignoring the negative impact for their action. In Africa, this species was introduced as a biological control agent, as they eat small snails, which small snails actually eat the plant that the African gardener grow them. So by doing that, the gardener can make sure that their plant are not damaged by the action of these small snails. And the last point is it was introduced to replace the indigenous species, and it is occur largely in the European country. In every action, there are always the consequences. Same goes to this case, where the first impact that we can see is the changing of the whole ecosystem function. Because of this animal, they are very durable, can live everywhere, and they eat almost every small living marine life, so it will ruin the whole ecosystem. And the second point is it will increase the water turbidity due to the action of digging the soil. And the third point is it will cause the important losses of rice yield, because they dig the soil so that the root of the rice plant will separate from the soil, so day after day it will dry and die. The next point is it will cause a problem to fisheries, because of their sharp claws will damage the net of the fisheries. And the last point is the causes of the native crayfish population decline, especially in the European country. This event keep on happening, and what we should do to control this from keep on going is we should report it immediately using the website below by taking photos and capture the specimen frozen. And people also can give further information to the officer to make sure that they can do the identification smoothly.
Lastly, for the conclusion, red swamp crayfish is a native to the southern United States and northeastern Mexico. It is dark red in color with a raised bright red spot. It is 2 to 5 inches long. Due to mutation, their body and claws can turn into blue. And lastly, it can be found in all ecosystem freshwater. So, the red swamp crayfish was firstly introduced to the Iberian Peninsula. After the successful introduction to the Iberian Peninsula, it led to another illegal introductions. Next, it dispersed rapidly throughout the Mediterranean region and throughout the Central Europe. And lastly, it widely established in Japan and China. So why was the red swamp crayfish was introduced in the first place? First, the red swamp crayfish is the most important freshwater decapods that farm for the consumption. Second, it can function as food for fishes and other edible species such as bullfrogs. Third, it also introduced in the African as the biological control agent to reduce the snail population. And lastly, it also introduced in Europe to replace the indigenous species. So after the invention, there are several impacts to the ecosystem. First, the invention changed the whole ecosystem functioning. Second, it increased the water turbidity. Third, it caused some important losses to the rice yield. And lastly, it caused some problems to the fisheries. That's all from me. Thank you.